We're just 3 games into the Sixers season, and things already seem to be off the rails. What is going on with Joel Embiid? We have no clue what the answer is to that, but we do have a new find from the NBA and a little bit of clarity into what the situation is. I'm going to break down what we do know regarding Joel Embiid and why the Sixers are handling things so poorly in regards to this overall circumstance, and my full thoughts on the situation as a whole. So buckle up, we got a lot to break down here. So let's jump right into it. And what we know is that the NBA has fined the Philadelphia 76ers $100,000 for public statements around the health status of all NBA center Joel Embiid, sources tell ESPN. And Shams continues with that, with a report saying that these sources said the NBA's investigation showed that the Sixers did not violate player participation policy with Embiid's missed games, but in fact with the public comments that did not properly reflect his health issues with his knee. And this has been the biggest issue for me, is this is such an avoidable issue, that if Joel Embiid is hurt, just tell everyone that Joel Embiid is hurt. If he's not hurt and he is healthy, then explain what the situation is and if this grand plan is for him just to sit out the first part of the season to make sure that he's healthy for playoffs. If that is the plan, if that is what you believe the best route to getting Joel Embiid to the playoffs healthy is, that is totally fine by me. What isn't totally fine by me is this constant back and forth, these weird circumstances regarding things and everything else that is surrounding the situation. And what's particularly frustrating me is just how avoidable it is. People assume the worst when you don't give them information, particularly when it is an organization like the Sixers that have a fairly long track record of reasons not to trust them for situations like this. So if that is the case, shut everything down, nip it in the bud, and be clear with what the situation is going on here. Now, before we knew about this fine, we had a couple other circumstances that led up to things. So we did get the report that there would be a new update as far as what Joel Embiid's availability would be going into tonight. And this is all that was given by Sixers PR, saying Joel Embiid and Paul George are out tomorrow versus Detroit. They participated in portions of practice today and will be reassessed later in the week. Now, to the credit of the Sixers reporters that were on site today, they did try and get a little bit more clarity on it, and this is the exact interaction. Shout out to Adam Aronson of Philly Voice here, Sixers Adam, who tweets out, "I'm sure the video is circulating somewhere, but these were Nick Nurse's answers to the two Joel Embiid / Paul George injury-related questions after today's practice. Tried to pull up the audio and the visual of it for this video here, but had some tech issues with the video kind of translating, so apologize for that. But the exact interaction, the question is, we got word about Joel and Paul. In terms of their participation in practice today, were they able to do any 5-on-5 or anything like that today?" And Nick Nurse just says, "You guys got the update. They were in parts of practice. On we go." And then Adam himself steps up and says, "With Joel's plan," and Nurse interrupts and said, "I'm not going to answer. Go ahead. Anybody else got anything?" They've given you the updates on that. They've given you the updates on Joel. And I do have an issue with this from Nick Nurse, because right here you have a chance to shut things down, make the situation clear, and give everyone a chance to take a deep breath. And he did not take it. Instead, you allow things to continue on. Now, in fairness to Nick Nurse, I do feel a little bad for him from the standpoint of he's the guy who has to constantly face the music here. I guarantee he has no say in what is exactly going on with Joel Embiid, and definitely is not in favor of whatever this plan is of Joel Embiid not playing. In all reality, the people who should have to face these questions are Joel Embiid himself and Daryl Morey. Now, neither of those are the case, that Nick Nurse is the forward-facing member of the organization. So I have a little bit of sympathy from the standpoint of, I feel bad that you're the guy facing things here, but you're still handling this incredibly poorly. And I don't love the testiness with the reporters who are just straight up doing their job. This is the most important question surrounding the team. You should be prepped for these type of questions, and you should have a little bit better than what that answer is. Now, in another fairness to Nick Nurse, I do like Nick Nurse. I don't want to hold things fully against him here, but I will say, in fairness to him, maybe he was just trying to stay tight-lipped until this investigation come out. At the time of this particular press conference, we did not know the results of it. So maybe that was orders to be a little bit more uptight about things for that situation, but regardless. Now, as far as the Joel Embiid outlook as a whole, this is just kind of going to be the new norm for Joel Embiid, and I don't think that has set in fully for people. That we do know the caliber of talent that Joel Embiid is, and I will say that I have dug around as much as I possibly can on this situation. I spoke to a couple different Sixers sources with things. I got a couple things I can say, a couple things that I can't. None of them make Joel Embiid or the organization look particularly good here. Now, this quote that I do feel comfortable coming forth and reporting does come from somebody in the building, and they say, quote, this is in regards to the investigation. They completely agreed with how we are managing the situation from a health perspective, parentheses, which they acknowledged in the statement. This is a reaction to the comments about not playing in back-to-backs, as well as our accurate assessment that he's been progressing well. They're protecting their national TV partners, which is what it is. And I do think that's the biggest conversation point or talking point from the NBA's perspective. That is one of the larger points that I think is important to keep in mind here is everyone in this situation has slightly different goals. For the NBA, that you got to maximize that TV deal. That is where the big bucks come in. That is why these guys command these massive 9-figure contracts, making $100 million. Joel making $500 million in his career overall. It does date back to the TV deals, which is where the biggest source of revenue is. So in order to continue that stream of income coming in, that you have to make sure this continues to be appealing, that you're putting the best product on the floor, and that means having your best players play. That is what the NBA's vested interest is. Now, for the Sixers' perspective, the goal is to keep Joel Embiid healthy for playoffs. And I guess I would side this a little bit more as a Joel Embiid goal, as that is very clearly his intentions. And we did have a picture of him at practice posted up with his trainer, Drew Hanlon. Paul George was also over there at times. And shout out to Sam DiGiovanni of Clutch Points, who tweets out, Joel Embiid talking with Drew Hanlon following Sixers practice. They've been talking for a little while now and are the last two people on the court. And I will say I have heard some really positive things about how Joel has looked in the limited versions of him that we have seen on the floor from reporters on scene there. So who knows what overall is the situation there. That is the biggest question mark here. But I think the other thing to keep in mind here when talking about the goals and what's important for the Sixers specifically, and this is where I think the criticism is fair, is their goal is still to make money and maximize profits too. That means ticket sales, that means creating interest, and that means maybe hiding a little bit of what is going on with Joel Embiid. And that is what's wrong to me. That is what should be directly called out here. Regardless of it coming from Joel Embiid himself or from the Sixers organization for what their game plan is, the lack of clarity, the full-out uncertainty that is on the table, it's just straight up wrong for everybody and does nobody any good here. That if you want to just shut things down, nip it in the bud, and tell everyone what the situation is on, you have every ability to do that. You can step right to that podium. You can hold a press conference whenever you guys want to and say, here's the situation. Did Joel Embiid get hurt in the summer? Is it still the knee injury from that Knicks series that did not get better because he played in the Olympics? And you can have your feelings and opinions on that. I understand. I get the frustrations if that is the case. But we can't even confidently say that is the case because there is nothing from the Sixers organization. And what is particularly frustrating here, that dating back to this Shams Charania report, to pull it back up here, is he says that the Sixers source said the NBA's investigation showed that the Sixers did not violate the player participation policy with Embiid's missed games. That means there's something going on. That means there's something that we do not know, because that means that he's not healthy is what that phrase means right there. So for everybody's sake, I would just appreciate a little bit more common sense, a little bit more clarity, and a little bit more directness. That I think the Sixers organization as a whole has fallen short in that category even more than they've actually fallen short on the court for things. So just clean things up. And for Joel specifically here, this has been a theme with him, regardless of who the regime is. And I have sympathy from Joel from the standpoint of he has outlived so many figures of this organization. Let's not forget it was Sam Hinkie that drafted him. He lived through the Colangelo era in which the general manager was tweeting about him from a burner phone. Then there was more eras past that. There was obviously the different coaches with Brett Brown, with Doc Rivers, now with Nick Nurse. Daryl Morey has taken the reins at the GM position. There's been a lot of moving parts surrounding him, and he's kind of been that stability of the organization. Now, as that has transpired, has also given him a little bit stronger of a voice than is generally the case for an active athlete, even the superstars of the franchise. If this is Joel's call to be this vague, to not give information, somebody's got to sit him down like an adult and say this does nobody any good, particularly you, that this makes you directly look bad by seeming like you're healthy and deciding not to play. And again, if that is the situation, if Joel Embiid is fully healthy right now, and just the game plan is the best route to getting him healthy for the playoffs is him sitting right now, the playoffs are about 7 months away at this point, that there's no point in risking injury in the first couple months of the season. If that's the plan, then so be it, but go tell us that is the case. Don't have people excited saying it seems like Wednesday could be the return with just a couple more games. And I do want to completely separate the Paul George and Joel Embiid conversations, because there is a clear injury with Paul George. We all saw that in the preseason there. Joel Embiid, a completely different conversation, and that is my greatest frustration to this point. So the circus seems to have arrived a little bit early in Philadelphia for this season. I did not think it would be this soon into the season that we'd be talking about all these like crazy moments or what's going on with the team. But I do appreciate that the investigation by the league has concluded, and maybe that will be the kick in the butt that they need to clean things up a little bit. So for the Sixers, I understand you're not hurting for money by any means, but your pockets are 100 grand deeper if you just handle things a little better, and everyone's going to be speaking a little bit more positively about the situation. So I do hope now that things are clean, the investigation is over, that there's a little more directness and clarity from the organization as a whole. Do I have some optimism that that's going to be the case? Not a ton, to be perfectly honest with you. So this is frustrating. I do think this is going to linger. I don't think this means that Joel Embiid is just going to play Saturday, to perfectly honest. My kind of feeling on things is this is still going to continue dragging out and still going to be a huge source of frustration. In the grand scheme of things, I do think we'll forget about this by the time the season is over, if Joel is healthy for the playoffs, if this quote-unquote plan works. But in the meantime, this is really frustrating stuff. This is amateur PR stuff from an organization that has been a disaster class in that for years. So for the Sixers, let's clean things up, let's get it together, and let's hopefully find a way to actually get a full functioning team of this big three on the floor at some point this season. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Are you as fired up as I am? And what is the solution here? And what is going on with Joel Embiid? Because we still do not fully know. Give me your predictions, your thoughts in the comments. Appreciate each and every one of you guys for tuning in. If you have not already, make sure you're subscribing to the channel. Let's get this Sixers Digest family growing as we begin to hit the home stretch of the season and hopefully have a full team to continue talking about. So want as many of you as possible along for the ride. So smash that subscribe button, drop a like if you have not already, and I'll be talking with you next time right here on Sixers Digest. Peace.